Welcome to Season 2 of the Simply Dynamic podcast. I'm Jennifer Maiden, co-creator and executive producer of this podcast, and the Assistant Dean of Graduate Studies at Rowan University's Rohr College of Business. Today, I invite you to join our hosts, Joe Devine and Christina Renna, for a discussion with Ron Jaworski, known as the CEO Quarterback. He is also the CEO of Ron Jaworski Golf, owner of BCA Philadelphia, founder of Jaws Youth Playbook, and an NFL analyst following decades as a successful NFL quarterback.
Okay, good morning, everyone. And Christina, you know why we rebranded this the Simply Dynamic podcast?
Because we bring in dynamic individuals and dynamic leaders.
Absolutely. There's probably no one more dynamic in our community than this guest today. And our guest today has been a legend, not only as a football player. And Christina, you probably weren't even born when he was playing, were you?
I was born in 1981.
It was a good year, Christina.
Yeah, it was a great year. It was a great year. It was. I always tell people, Ron, and you could appreciate this. Our guest today is Ron Jaworski, but I always tell people until Reese Hoskins hit that home run 2 years ago in that playoff series, there was no dynamic stadium that I ever sat in than the day that Wilbur Montgomery ran for that touchdown against the Cowboys.
Yeah, I remember it very well. I right, slot split, 47 slant on two.
There you go.
Hut, hand off to Wilbur. Last thing I saw was his butt racing toward the end zone, and I saw that probably 30,000 people in that end zone just rise all in one. It was the loudest I had ever heard Veterans Stadium.
Absolutely.
Since all the years I've been playing there. It was an unbelievable experience. Of course, we beat the Cowboys for the NFC Championship.
There you go.
It was a highlight for those of us who happen to be there. So I call Ron Mr. Everything because we won't talk about his NFL career today. He's been a tremendous broadcaster. But as you know, our podcast is to talk about leadership. And one of the things you've done effectively well in our community is be a leader, not just for the community, but as an entrepreneur for the businesses you own. So we want to talk to you a little bit about that today. And the first question you've had multiple careers, an excellent NFL player, broadcaster, and now an entrepreneur and you own golf courses. What's been the hardest and what have you enjoyed the most?
I've enjoyed them all, and they're all hard.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's the chemistry involved here. You know, if you take on a task, you got to finish it and complete it. Now, when I think of my football career, 17 years as NFL quarterback. Mm-hmm. 17 years. The average NFL career is about 3.3.
Sure.
Yeah.
That most people, Christina might know it because Mike, her husband, played ball, knows how short the career is.
Sure.
3.3 years. So by the time you're 25, you're usually out of the business. You got to go get a real job. You're not playing a kid's game of football anymore. So I was fortunate to last 17 years. But at the same time, I retire in 1990. I get hired by ESPN. There's another career, 28 years at ESPN.
Right.
28 years. And by the way, that business is also very, very competitive. You're competing all the time. At the same time I'm working at ESPN, I'm building my golf company. My wife and my son are very active. My wife probably deserves a lot more credit for our golf company than I do because I had all the balls juggling in the air, but she was doing the grunt work, grinding it out and doing the day-to-day, operational stuff, which is the hard part of any business. So that's 3 careers. I'm still doing the golf business.
Sure.
Now I have 8 golf courses, looking for more. The business is good. I love people. I love being around people. So they all kind of dovetail, but they were all fun for me, but they're also all very difficult.
Mm-hmm. So, one of the things we want to talk about most today is the entrepreneurship and the golf career. Why did you decide on golf as the business?
So I can't answer that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but I will say this I've always played the game. I love the game for the camaraderie that it brings you can be with people as friends, as business associates, as husband and wife, as dad and his kids. There's so many ways that golf interacts with the experience of life. But I played the game since I was 9 years old. Couldn't afford to on a golf course. We used to start the second hole at South Park Golf Club, which is a suburb outside of Buffalo, because we couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford to play golf. I had a mixed set of clubs. I just loved the game, but I couldn't afford to play the game as a young man growing up. Both my mom and my dad were both full-time workers. My mom was a cleaning lady at the Ellicott Square building in downtown Buffalo. My dad worked in a lumberyard. So they gave me you talk about why I'm successful. I learned my work ethic from my parents. If I was going to be successful, you had to work hard to be successful. So back to golf, though, I love to play it. And when I made a little bit of money as an NFL player, why not buy a golf course? Because Tuesday, when I was a player, was our day off. And that was a day, I just want to get the hell away from everybody.
Sure.
Win, lose, whatever it is. I needed a day, and every player and coaches are working on those Tuesdays. So I can't even say coaches need a day off because they never get a day off.
Right.
They're grinding. But I used to take Tuesday, and go out and play golf and just get away. I didn't have to worry about the media, the coaches. I'd take Mike Quick or Randall Cunningham or some of my teammates. We'd go out and play. In fact, I taught Mike Quick the game. Now he's a Pine Valley member.
Right.
Thanks,
He's a special player there.
I get knocked out of the spot. Mike gets in. But Mike's just an awesome guy. Right. But we used to love that Tuesday where you just kind of let your hair down, not worry about the fans, not worry about the media, not worry about the game. So it was that one day you'd go, okay, because tomorrow it cranks up again. You got to get ready for your opponent. So I loved golf in that respect. So I started making some money and bought my first golf course here, which is right down the road here, Eagles Nest Country Club.
Right.
That time was Tall Pines.
Right.
And by the way, I know when I got your question here, some great stories like Leo Beebe and Stan Nemrowski, and talk about learning from leaders in this community. Man, I was the most fortunate guy in the world because they'd come for lunch almost every day. And I'd sit with those guys.
Right.
And they taught me the ropes. We talked about Leo Beebe. He worked for the Ford family, the Ford Motor Company, Henry Ford himself.
Yes.
And people like that. And Stan Nemrowski running Sony Music. I mean, I was taught by the business by just some of the best people, just not by osmosis almost. I'd be with these guys literally every day. They would come to Eagles Nest for lunch. Mm-hmm. And I'd just sit with them and talk to them. And Leo was just... he was
those people don't realize how big K-Tron and Sony were.
My God! It was South Jersey.
Yeah, it was.
They were. It was not only South Jersey, but nationally recognition. Singers would come into town and Stan would bring them down and had meet people for lunch and all that. It was great when those businesses were humming.
Yeah.
So that kind of got you started, and that's great. So, Christina?
Yeah, no. So say it again. How many courses do you own now, Ron?
8 golf courses,
8 golf courses in 2 states?
2 Pennsylvania, 1 Delaware, 5 in New Jersey.
There you go. And so when we talk about being a leader, obviously Jaws Golf is a brand now. Our chamber, South Jersey Chamber, we don't do a golf outing unless we're using one of your courses. We're religious about it. But, the golf industry had some challenges in recent years that you never could have anticipated with the pandemic. And when we talk about a leader, right, you were so hands-on during that time period in making sure the industry that took a hit was able to survive, and not only able to survive, but now on the back end of the pandemic is doing better than you ever thought. Is that correct?
That is 100% correct. And
do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because that is all attributed to your leadership in running how you ran those courses during that time.
In the golf business, I will take some credit for that. But we all know business in general, no one knew what to do. I mean, when the pandemic hit, I'm still reading things now about the report that just came out, about how Governor Murphy handled it. And, I had numerous discussions with his, at that time, Matt Platkin, who was his advisor at the time, and they weren't pleasant. They weren't pleasant. I'm not going to say, because I've known Matt, he's a really nice guy, but I totally disagreed with the position that leadership took on that, and I was shut down. Lost $6 million in 6 weeks.
Oh,
$6 million. And I'm not a major corporation. I'm an independent. My wife and I own and operate our company, and to take that hit, we didn't know where we were going to be. And you're saying, well, you're closed. You can't open. Science is science. That is science. I won't say it on here,
Right.
But I didn't agree. So I'll leave it at that. But as time went on and the pandemic ended, I think because of the pandemic, people wanted to be outside, so they took up golf. Women are now 30% of the golf economy.
Wow.
Women are. I was at Ramblewood yesterday, and I was having lunch with my wife and a couple other people, my daughter, and on the putting green, there were about 20. High schools are starting now. Mm-hmm. So there are about 20 people on practice on a putting green. I think I counted 12 or 13 were ladies.
Whoa.
Were ladies. So that's the new influx of opportunities, I call them, to play the game, teach them the game. It used to be, the women are slow playing. It's so wrong right now. The women are such good players right now. They've really increased the playability of the game. African Americans, Asians are now making up the golf population. It used to be guys that looked like you and I, Joe, 60 years or older, and they had the time and the money to play golf. Now it's a great demographic. So the golf business is really, really strong now. And I'm a whack job for all these different conferences and industry challenges that we face. You go have meetings on them, but it seems to be everywhere. There's about a 5-year runway right now where the golf game will continue to go. Now the golf business means weddings.
Right.
It means sports bar. We do over 500 weddings at our clubs.
Wow.
500 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about some
Yeah.
Some of the brides can be tough, so we're very fortunate.
No, come on. I was once a maitre d', so I know that business a little bit.
And we're pretty tough at doing them the right way. So, my wife Liz, my daughter-in-law Heather, they do a great job of handling that side of the business because I just go there and smile, make sure everything's all right, and sign some autographs and talk about the Eagles. So my job's easy.
Right.
But they do the heavy lifting.
So, one of the things that's interesting about the golf business is the maintenance of the courses and the golf people who are hired to do that. A lot of people are in the field of pursuing the field, younger people, of sports management or leadership. How do you choose your people to kind of run your courses? And what are the skill sets you think someone should have when you look at them from a leadership perspective that could be a person that you could trust to take over and run all those things related to the golf course itself?
You never know. You really know till we go through the process, a pretty diligent process. We hire slow. We take our time and do our background checks. We want to make sure we get the right person. And there's still never a guarantee of that. But as far as agronomy, I've got an executive superintendent, Charlie Clark, who's been with you now for 25 years. Mm-hmm. And he handles all that stuff. He's Charlie's the kind of guy, he'd pick up some dirt, sniff it, he could tell you what's right or wrong with the dirt. Guys are that good. So he oversees all our agronomic programs. He trains all the guys. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, we call it the culture to hire within. Mm-hmm. If we got good young people, man, bring them along.
Right.
If they're good or not. You can. Dave Santana, my superintendent over at Riverwind, started with me at Valley Brook, and we were talking about Valley Brook a minute ago when we first bought it in 2000. He was on the crew. I realized Dave was an awesome guy. He's a hardworking guy. He's driven to be successsul. So we sent him to Rutgers and paid for his education, so he can get the formal education. He had the work ethic. He understood the dignity of work. It's, hey, you want to be successful, you got to work hard. So also we say, we love Dave. Dave's still with us. We got him his degree, and he's done a fantastic job at Riverwind. It's one of the best golf courses in the state of New Jersey right now. Yeah.
That's wonderful. I bet you people didn't know that an organization like yours, if you identify someone, would actually help them advance their careers through paying for their education.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a great tribute.
Culture of opportunity.
Yeah.
We give people an opportunity. Absolutely. If we see that they're good, give them that chance. And we've got partnerships with Rowan University.
Right.
My Youth Playbook, my foundation.
Right.
We have a lot of volunteers that come in and intern us because our big golf tournament's coming up in June. For the 40th year.
Wow, 40 years.
I'm ready to fall down. 40 years, but we've raised over $7 million.
That's tremendous.
$7 million are kids that wouldn't get these opportunities, to get educated, to get bikes. The things that we do are remarkable. My team. Philanthropy team does an unbelievable job of doing events. And not only do we do the golf tournament, which we've had from Tom Brady to Joe Theismann to Dan Marino, you name it. They've been at Charles Barkley. They played, at the event. And that's how we help raise money. And, I'm just a conduit. We raise it, comes through us, and we give it away,
Yep. And, a lot of, as you're talking about, whether it be golf, whether it be about Jaws Youth Playbook, which we do want to talk even a little bit more about that. But everything you're talking about, Liz is involved. Your daughter, BJ, is very involved in the golf business, right? So it's a very much a family affair, whether it's golf. And I know Liz especially is very involved in Jaws Youth Playbook. She just did the prom dress. Wasn't there the prom dress? Or she's always innovating. And
I was there too, giving out those prom dresses.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
You know which one.
You were both. Yeah, you didn't have an opinion on that.
I didn't have one on.
No, but the give back to the community, some of the things you've done. I elaborate a little bit more because it is just so tremendous.
Here's what's really. I'm glad you mentioned that prom dress because 3 years ago, Trish, our executive director of the foundation, came up with this idea.
Who's great.
She's phenomenal.
Yep.
And everyone involved. And we try to look for new and creative ideas. Like, we've given away 3,500 bikes at Christmas time. We were down at Hope Ranch this year, giving away 600 bikes down there. We've been at Boys and Girls Club of Atlantic City. We've been at the KIPP Center in Camden.
Yep.
Each year we bounce it around. And I look, this is one part where I look for the most underserved communities. We don't go to, no disrespect to Haddonfield, but there's money in Haddonfield, they can get their own kids a bike. We go to the kids where they don't have an opportunity. Right. Parents don't have the money. We try to do what we can. But prom dress is a really cool idea. Here's kind of what happened. Trish came up with a great idea. Prom dresses. I don't know about you, Christina, but I know Liz had like 5 dresses in our closet, from weddings and things like that.
Sure.
So they've been sitting there for 10 years. So you give these $500 dresses out, get them clean and out. We had 900 dresses. 150 we gave away. You come in, they pick their dress out. Not only a dress, but shoes, jewelry, And these young girls, like, man, they feel, when you see them go, oh my God, they got the smile like from ear to ear. But then it does another thing. It brings, like, the cheerleaders are involved. The Eagles cheerleaders are involved. There's a veteran NFL alumni cheerleaders group. So they get involved, and the president of cheerleaders. So you put your arms around everybody, making the boat a little bit bigger. So it's like, oh, good seeing you. So it's like a reunion now every year when you see those ladies that cheered when I was playing, the new cheerleaders that are cheering now, and they're helping these young kids. And we get great media coverage, which always helps when 6ABC and KYW and everything come and they show up. It means a lot. So people recognize what we're doing. So when we make the call next year, I see it on 6ABC. I see what you guys are doing. I'm in. What do you need? Right. So it just perpetuates itself. But
a true leader isn't just a leader and successful in his or her own right, but a true leader gives back, and you exemplify that. You and your whole family do.
I appreciate that. And, a lot of people ask me that because of, what we've done through the years. Why did I become so philanthropic? My wife's so philanthropic. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then we actually geared it towards youth because Liz was a preschool education major in college. She graduated her degree and she taught preschool education. So we kind of geared everything toward kids. And remember, 40 years ago, our kids were young. So it kind of fit the mold. So we just stayed focused on young people. I was on the United Way board here in Gloucester County, and I moved up to the national board for 4 years as well. So I remember going to those meetings, and it was about kids. Everything was about kids. The whole program was, get the kids before 6, give them their best chance to be successful. So we kind of in our mind, 40 years ago, thought about, okay, let's help the young people, and that's kind of the way we stayed with it. And it's really, really worked.
They always talk about the Mount Everest or the, what do they call it? Mount Rushmore of Mount Everest. Great Mount Rushmore of great former Eagles. You got to look at you, honestly. It's not because you're here, because right now they talk about that all the time. And there's people in the team now who've been great, but in all fairness, let's be honest, you made a small portion of the money that players make today, and times are different. But the fact that you created the ability to give back to the community means a lot. And you're a great example to people, not just in the community, but throughout sports. See how we give back. Because long before there was a Walter Payton a Year Award, you were doing things that were significant for the community. So.
And I appreciate that, Joe. And I think it's important. And I've been recognized by some of the, like Jason Kelce just retired. Yeah. He obviously a phenomenal player, but better person.
Yes.
And he's attending my golf tournament every year. And when he does the interviews, he always says, hey, Jaws is kind of a tempo setter. And we came to town 14 years ago as a rookie. We saw Ron was doing all this.
Sure.
So we supported him. Now he's doing all this stuff. He does his stuff down at Sea Isle.
Yeah, he was just there a few weeks ago.
He raised $500,000 with that. I mean,
sure did.
He's always giving back. He's got his own foundation now. So, and when they say, "Oh, we saw what Jaws was doing," when I hear it from the other players as well, it just keeps me motivated to keep it going. Yeah, that they're okay. I am making an impact. I know from what I see. And what money we give away and the events that we have, I feel that when I hear it from the players saying, okay, so now I know this will go on.
Yeah.
It's not going to stop, someday when I pass away, these younger players that are picking it up now continue to grow, not only grow the game, but to grow the giving back part of it.
I gave Christine an interesting fact this week before we were talking about your interview, by the way, which she didn't know. You once dabbled with the idea of running for Congress years ago. It lasted about a day. But he did dabble with that idea.
Well, I will tell you, and Ron will tell you too, that every year or 2 years, there's a trickled out media article. Right. And what do? I text you or I call you immediately. And say what?
No.
Don't do it. Right?
You make a bigger difference.
But the great news, but that's important. That's why it's a question. Sometimes people think that, okay, this is the only avenue you can go to. And we have great elected officials all over the place. But the question that I would ask is, how do you help drive the community to be better besides all the charitable work, help make an influence on those type of leaders because of you have an impact in so many different ways. How do you try to do it?
I think it's really simple. Mm-hmm. And I give about 30 motivational speeches a year and to major corporations. And I basically took the lessons I've learned from coaches that I played for that set the tempo and led by example.
Sure.
And everyone can talk a good game. We can stay here for hours. I can talk a good game, right. But I walk out the door, people don't hear or see from me. Then they don't know I'm full of it.
Right.
So I like to lead by example.
Right. And
if you're putting the time in and people see you're putting the effort in it and what you're doing is working, stay the course. Don't need to change. I don't need to change who I've been for 40 years because it's working.
Right.
I've always believed in leading by example,
Yeah.
being a tempo setter. Be the first guy in, the last guy out, just like an NFL quarterback. You're supposed to be the first guy in at 6 a.m. in the morning, the last guy out at 8 o'clock at night. Every guy in that team is counting on you to be the leader. You got to be the Jalen Hurts. You got to be the leader of the team. They want to know that you're not showing up 5 minutes before the meeting, sprinting to the meeting room. They know you're late.
Yeah.
They know you're not putting the time in. So you lead by example, put the time in. And even if you have less talent, I'm not going to say I was the most talented quarterback in the world, but I'm in the Eagles Hall of Fame. I'm in the Youngstown State Hall of Fame. I'm in the Lackawanna High School Hall of Fame. I never made the NFL Hall of Fame, but that's okay. But I didn't have all this great God-given talent. But, man, I always said no one's going to outwork me. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to let that happen. That's the one thing I can control. I can't control talent. God took care of that. But you know what? You put 10 hours in, I'm going to find a way to kick your butt. I'm going to put 12 hours in. I'm going to find a way,
And the good thing about
I'm not mad at you, Joe. I'm just confusing you.
No. I used to work that many hours and more, by the way, my day. But I think the reality of it is, which is good about you also, you connect with people at every level. Like I used to tell people the most important thing as a leader can do is, doesn't matter what the person does for you, where they sit in the organization. If you're the leader, you have to connect with them. And I see you do that with your people all the time, whenever you're at the course or somewhere else that you're in your clubs. If it's for a wedding, people aren't afraid to say, hey, Ron Jaworski's here. He said hello to me, talked to me. He's interested about me.
And they want to talk ball,
Why? Yeah, that's an important lesson for people to learn, right?
Could I get back to what you asked me about politics?
Yeah.
And then,
absolutely. I don't want to avoid that.
Because it's kind of funny and cool. And, 1990, I had just retired. And the Republican Party was recruiting me to run for Congress. I went down to Washington. Mm-hmm. And so I had all these different stops in Washington. I'm being kind of paraded around. My last stop, Secretary of HUD, Jack Kemp.
Right.
Jack Kemp was helpful to me in 1973 when I was drafted by the LA Rams. I'm from Buffalo, New York, it's my hometown. He was a congressman from Buffalo. So when I got drafted, he called me. Jack Kemp personally called me at the time. Wow. So you want to know if I need any help, in football, advice, or anything like that? And I said, yeah, I do. I need an agent. I didn't think I'd be the 37th player selected in the country in 73. I need someone to represent me. So he recommended an attorney in Lackawanna, New York, that negotiated my first contract. Wow. Mm-hmm. But from that, Jack and I became great friends. His son was an NFL quarterback, so there was a real connection. So when I retired, this Republican Party was recruiting me to run for Congress, so they take me down. And my last stop is to see Jack Kemp, the Secretary of HUD. So I walk in his office after I'd sat outside in his secretary for about 5 minutes, and he brings me in. So you guys can see me, but the audience can't see me. So before I sit down, I'm coming in. Hey, Mr. Kemp, how are you? And as I'm sitting down, my butt hadn't quite hit the seat yet. And he goes, "Are you bleeping crazy?" I remember to this day, like I had my butt didn't hit the seat yet. He goes, "You've been an NFL quarterback for 17 years. You know what it's like to have people hate you, love you within the same minute, So you just deal with it." Mm-hmm. Is that me beeping or
it's you?
Oh,
yeah. Jack Kemp also once ran for president, did he not?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
But I remember that like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
So when John Runyon went to go to Congress, did you? I assume did you talk to him at all?
Oh yeah, I spoke to John. I kind of said, "Are you crazy?" And it's true. I mean, you could be. I like to be 100% a man of the people. I don't want to be 50% a man of the people or 51%, which would be pretty good in politics. Because I'm too optimistic.
Right.
I'm a positive guy. And I just hate to be, it bothers me when I'm negative about things, So politics, you could be the best politician. You're still going to have 49% of the people not like you because you're positive.
No doubt about it. Somebody always said to me, listen, you run for office.
Yeah.
50% of the people might not like you anyhow, so that's okay.
Right. Yeah.
But, it's great because you look back on that. That was a valuable lesson and experience for you. But the good thing is you had that connection with Jack Kemp, to be realistic.
Still politically to this day, Joe, and Christina knows, hey, I support Republicans.
I know you do.
Support Democrats.
Yep.
I support people that I think will do the right thing. And I know that maybe is too loyal, but I think if I like to support people that I know.
Yeah,
sure.
And we may disagree, but I know eventually they'll do the right thing. So that's kind of where I am politically.
Right, and that's why Democrats float out your name.
Oh yeah,
float out your name. I mean, it's everywhere.
No, now they're floating out my wife's name.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I told them no so long that they forgot about it.
They're going to get another Jaworski on the table, right?
So I got, so we're talking about leadership and your career, but I got it. You mentioned Jason Kelce, who was the leader of the Eagles. I mean, what are your thoughts on his retirement? I know this is not on this sheet of paper,
You
Joe.
don't have to worry about it.
But
No, we don't follow
I
We ad lib.
I got to ask because, I mean, he really, all intents and purposes, was the heart and such a tremendous leader on that team. I know you know him, and obviously would love your thoughts on that.
You start out, he's a great player. And that's where it starts. He's a great player. And by the way, he had a great year.
Sure.
He did.
He shouldn't, in my opinion, we're going to miss him. He should not have retired. But you dealt with it with your husband. Your body can only take so much.
Yep.
You got to feel your body. He's made a lot of money, which is wonderful. But at the end of the day, can you still, do you want to, in 10 years, you want to have your, want to be able to get off a chair, get off the couch.
Right.
And I think he kind of senses mortality. We all do. You played in the business, you sense your mortality. Can you go another year? Can you go 2 years? He had made up his mind. The body was probably more than because he really had a good year. It's not like, oh man, he's hanging on.
Sure.
Right. No, he had a good year. And what he's done in this community and represented this community, and I mean, he should be somebody's speechwriter. I mean,
he should
be.
Oh my God. And which is so amazing because he's so thoughtful. I'm more of and I think most ball players are knee-jerk kind of guys. You could tell when at the parade, when he gave his speech then, it just didn't happen in circumstance. He gave it serious thought. His 45-minute retirement speech was phenomenal.
It was.
I mean, you could tell it was thoughtful. He thanked everyone in such a unique way.
Right.
It was just, I had tears in my eyes hearing him give that retirement speech.
That's just what kind of player he was. He just connected with the fans on a very personal level, which a lot of Eagles do.
Yeah, and they embrace the area, and his wife is phenomenal.
Right.
You look at her; she's
a great field hockey player.
But you give yourself the fact that you just think off the cuff. I would say no. My position with you is you have been very strategic. You're a very good strategic thinker, in my view, having observed what you've done in your businesses, because that just didn't come about because you think about it. You said, like earlier, we talked about, well, how did I get into the golf? Although you got into it, ultimately you have a strategy, right?
Yeah.
And as a leader, tell me about your thought process on a strategy. How do you think ongoing? Like, do I want to buy this next club? Do I want to have 13 clubs? What vision do you set?
First of all, I've got 962 employees in my company.
Right.
Wow.
962. I got a lot of people that my company employs. I take that responsibility very serious.
Right.
The company is important to me. Liz, my son BJ, who's the president of the company now. Right. Liz is the CLO, Chief Leadership Officer.
Okay.
And I'm the CEO, but I'm just kind of the guy that makes everything happen. Right. And that makes sense. I'm the jack of all trades, whatever it takes. They do the grunt work. They do the hard work. And without them, the 960 employees, we got nothing. So as I said, I take it very seriously to keep my people employed, to give them raises, and to grow the company. Quite honestly, I probably get an opportunity a day. When you're in the business as long as I have been, with the connection I have, there's courses for sale here, business for sale here, opportunities here. People want me to get involved with other things, which I still dabble with, like NBC Sports, doing Eagles pre and post game show. Yep. I do WIP twice a week during the season. I got to have my toe in the water,
Yeah, that's what you enjoy.
When I was at ESPN and NFL Films, I mean, it was 60, 70 hours a week. When it was Monday Night Football, it was 90 hours a week. Sure. Because you travel, your work, and everything else.
Right.
But I'll knock on wood, it was a good paying job, and I love doing it. But Liz would always say, like around December, "You're all right," because you're grinding. I mean, you're grinding. You got to really keep your nose to the grindstone to be successful. And it's competitive, but I'm always looking for opportunities, not necessarily for myself, keep the company going. And we've gone through our strategic planning meeting for this year. We've had it, but now we're getting with all our GMs, salespeople, and each club is about 20, what I call our leadership group. And what really motivates me is as I looked around, half of our team's probably under 30 years old. Mm-hmm. That's exciting to me.
Yeah, that's great.
That's I'm the old geezer, I guess, but that excites me about my son, because he's going to run the company when we move forward.
Right.
But when I see these young, I get so, I'll be blunt with it. I get so pissed off when I hear people talk about the young kids nowadays. They're lazy, they don't want to work, this and that. That is so wrong. Mm-hmm. I mean, we got unbelievable young people that we're talking about, driving the beverage cart,
Right.
Sure.
Hey, these are kids going to college in all school year. They get a job at a golf course driving a beverage cart. They're making money to pay for their education. They're making some money to buy a prom dress, whatever the case may be. I take that responsibility very serious, very serious. So when I see these young people, I think it's my responsibility to make sure that we elevate these kids.
Right.
And I get
That's
a great
great.
feeling out of that.
And that's what a true leader does.
Absolutely. So here's one thing I have to ask. In Christina's hometown where she grew up, one of New Jersey's most famous athletes is building a golf course, right? And obviously we don't know what that means.
I've walked that property already.
Is it pretty nice?
It's going to be spectacular.
Good.
And John Aruga, Mike Trout, Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Now, I understand they've already got the application from Steph Curry as going to be one of the first members there.
Wow.
So,
Really?
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that.
So they're going to draw a nice crowd.
And then we all know John Aruga is one of the most amazing people you'd ever want to meet.
Right.
Oh man.
Not only a great businessman, but just a wonderful, decent human being.
Yeah.
Mike Trout, same. Mike loves his community.
Yep.
He could be out in L.A., but he's in Millville.
Yes,
Yeah, no
he
doubt.
sure is.
No
He's
doubt.
he's walking around. He's at Jim's lunch
Yeah.
at least 3-4 times a week when he's in town.
And he just built a house down here.
Oh, he's built. Yeah,
He built a house.
but the down to earth people, his dad, brother, they're members at Running Deer, so they'll be still at Running Deer, and there'll be a Trout National with Tiger.
Sure.
But Running Deer has a U.S. Open qualifier May 6th.
Right.
A U.S. Open qualifier.
Wow.
In South
That's
Jersey.
impressive.
It's very impressive. It is. I'm gonna brag a little bit about my team now. They've done a hell of a job with the golf course.
Yeah.
And to be recognized by the USGA to have a U.S. Open qualifier there is astounding.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that we're going to have Mike Trout, Tiger Woods, John Aruga building a course probably 7 or 8 miles from Running
Not
Deer.
far.
And we're all, who knows where this could be in, we could be the Pinehurst in 20, 30 years. And there's a lot of land down there. There's a lot of good terrain.
Yeah.
Golf business is hot. Now their model is a little bit different. They're going to be, a very high end where I'm kind of a moderate, as far as fees go. But if John Aruga's involved and Mike Trout's involved and Tiger Woods involved, it's going to be sensational. It's just great for South
Well, as you and I know, South Jersey has great golf courses. It's
Yes,
funny
we do.
because when I ran the Kennedy system, of course, Pine Valley is right near Stratford.
Yeah.
Number 1 in the world.
People didn't realize that they were flying golfers from like Tiger and Phil Mickelson. They would come in like once a week. They pick them up at the airport, drive them in to play the course.
Yeah.
So it's going to add another great addition besides the different levels that are available.
The number 1 golf course in the world, not St. Andrews, Augusta.
Yeah.
It's Pine Valley.
I know.
In Clementon, New Jersey.
I know.
Right.
Clementon, New Jersey. Drive by the amusement park, and there's the number 1 golf course in the world.
I know.
It's crazy.
And Running Deer is in Pittsgrove, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
It's a great place.
And now the Trout, Tiger Woods, John Ruga is in Vineland, and these are Salem County and Cumberland County, 2 of the poorest counties in the state.
Oh, my
and we
God.
have these shining beacons of employment and recreational activity for especially at Running Deer, opportunities, and that is what those areas of the state need here in South Jersey.
Well, Ron, thank you so much for doing this. We're doing this in conjunction with the university to kind of promote leadership in our community and all the people who lead businesses. And you have second to none when it comes to leading businesses. And having been the chair of the chamber myself, I know you were the chair for a long time. Those business connections mean a lot for our future leaders. And what we try to do is help emerging leaders as well. So your advice and input has been valuable. And we thank you for being part of this. And Christina, I'll let you close it out.
No, just Ron, I appreciate you, your entire family. Your entire family and your leadership make South Jersey better. And as the head of the South Jersey Chamber, if we could clone you and put you.
Yeah. I wish you could too. Right?
Yeah.
That could be dangerous.
Yeah.
We can't everybody be watching the Jaws movie.
But I really meant when I said you see someone with your level of success, married 50 years, about to go to Italy to celebrate with Liz.
50,
Oh,
50
Italy's great.
And
50 years. I can't wait. Never been there.
Oh, Ron,
and
you're going to love
family
it.
business and giving back to the community is just as important as running the business and getting to know the people. And I'll just say this very quickly. My dad, I was obviously born and raised diehard Eagles fan. About a decade ago, we were at a restaurant. You and Liz were there, and I didn't know you that well then. I was not in my current position. And my dad said, "That's Ron Jaworski. I'm going to write him a note. I don't want to bother him." And he wrote you a note on a cocktail napkin and just slipped it to you on our way out and just said, because I grew up in Cumberland County. My dad's when he was golfing, Running Deer. Thank you for what you've done for our community down in the Cumberland, Salem County area with Running Deer. And he just slid you the note and said, "I don't want to bother you. Have a nice dinner. I want you to have this note." And you got up and shook his hand. And my dad still talks about that.
Wow, that's great.
That's the kind of guy Ron Jaworski is. And that's why we are so honored to have him here.
You guys are way too kind. I really enjoy working. And Christina, what you do is amazing for South Jersey and promoting business in this community. And I know you have battles ahead, but
the battles never stop.
I know I'm on your team, so I know we got a shot.
Yeah.
And Joe,
we're lucky to have her.
And Joe, you've given a lot of your time to this community too. So hey, we're all speaking the same language here, and we just want to make it a better place to live, to work, and raise our families.
Well, thank you for being part of the Simply Dynamic podcast, because you are certainly dynamic. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that chat as much as I did. What was your key takeaway from this discussion? Share it on our social media channels at Simply Dynamic Podcast. Next up, in our Fresh Perspective segment, established leaders and early career professionals will share insights and ideas on personal and professional branding.
It's important to slow down for a second when you're thinking about your personal brand and really take a look at what your values are. So your brand is going to look different depending on what group you're in. Your personal brand is going to evolve with who you are, but at the core, you need to understand what your values are. So thinking about what your values are and kind of the foundation you're going to set your brand up on, you can then think about how you want to portray yourself in these different groups. With the way social media works right now, everything is so instantaneous. Everything moves so quickly. It's so caught up in sharing and posting, and we digest our news so quickly. So I think just taking a step back, slowing down, looking at brands that resonate with you, looking at people or influencers that resonate with you. What are they doing right? What about them feels authentic to you, and why? So you being able to establish what your values are at your core and then attributing them to how you present yourself and your brand, whether that's at work or in school, is how you're going to portray the most authentic version of yourself.
Branding comes in a couple of flavors. There's personal, there's professional, and you could keep going. Personal branding might be personality tied. It's how you want people to know you, where professional branding might be more content related, like what do you want people to know you know and you're good at doing. Either of these is going to change based on the context, the place where you are, the time where you are happening to practice this particular brand or perform. They're not the same thing. So in terms of content, mostly I'm focused on databases, big language data sets, analysis and research. But in everyday words, I'm an interrogator. I'm asking questions like, what does this tell us? And it doesn't matter if it's a computer language, if it's human language, or bird language. What is the story here? What is relevant? What is important? And there's different ways to call that in my professional field. But in terms of personal branding, it's just a connector.
So I think that building a personal brand or a professional brand is really as simple as tying your name and your actions to a consistent positive outcome. You can do that really just by leaning into your strengths and identifying what you're good at. So if you are somebody that is a learner and likes to understand what the environment is, be vocal about asking questions, be vocal about your thoughts on a topic, and your group will know that you're somebody that's thinking the problem through. If you're a doer, if you're somebody that likes to execute on tasks, just be the one that raises your hand for the stretch assignments, for the challenging assignments, and you'll be the person that people come to get things done and to see things through. Colin Cox, Senior Financial Analyst at Lockheed Martin, 2020 Rohr College of Business, Master's in Finance graduate.
Dr. Olga Vulcanu, Associate Professor, Department of Public Relations and Advertising, College of Communication and Creative Arts at Rowan University.
Elizabeth Parker, Assistant Director, Employer Partnerships and Career Programming, the Rohr Center for Professional Development at Rowan University.
On each episode of the Simply Dynamic podcast, we like to close out with an action-oriented tip from an expert that you can implement in your workplace. Today's expert advice comes from Colleen Kendrick, CEO of Nonprofit Partners, a marketing communications firm focused on amplifying the aims and accelerating the impact of nonprofit organizations.
My number one tip for leaders of all ages is to be humble enough to know what you don't know. I think there's this misconception that to be a leader, you have to be all-knowing. Not only is that untrue, but if you behave like you know everything and the people on the team surrounding you have no value or expertise to learn from, you'll find that they'll quickly disengage. So hire great people and value your team members' meaningful contributions without feeling threatened by them. Nobody likes a know-it-all, in life or in business. Colleen Kendrick, CEO of Nonprofit Partners, an inaugural member of the Rowan MBA Advisory Council, adjunct professor in the Rohr College of Business.
Thank you to all of our guests for joining us today, and thank you, our audience, for listening to the Simply Dynamic podcast. This podcast is a collaborative project led by the Graduate Studies team at Rowan University's Rohr College of Business in partnership with our hosts, Joe Devine and Christina Renna, and with support from producer and creative director Keith Brand, a professor in Rowan's radio, television, and film department. Music from this episode came from Epidemic Sound and Renku Corporation, recorded in collaboration with nonprofit partners. To learn more about the Simply Dynamic podcast, visit simplydynamicpodcast.com. Until the next episode, take care, and we look forward to connecting with you again soon.